Mailbag Friday coming up, and you guys have controversial questions.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good morning, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like the players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved.
All right, welcome in. I am Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Connor Happer of 1620 The Zone is with me. You have found the Friday Mailbag episode of the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Right off the top here, Connor, big news on Thursday night. Nebraska, and I know this really surprised a lot of people. Nebraska's going with the All Reds tomorrow for the 11 a.m. kickoff against Houston Christian.
That's what the moon was about. Okay, and I understand.
It seemed like the foreshadowing was strong on this one.
I know you're not a huge I have a jersey take guy, right?
I'm okay with this one.
Okay.
Like, this is kind of cool, I think.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I haven't been clamoring for it for many years, but it seems like the recruits, always seem to throw on those all red jerseys or the away pants and the home jerseys whenever they come visit. So yeah, I mean, it's a low energy type of game. So do something different to kind of spice it up a little bit.
I'm curious to see what it looks like, and I think it'll stand out. And I think the uniforms are very, like, they jump. They're sharp. They don't look like what Nebraska wore against Oklahoma in 1986 when it was last in the All Reds. It's shocking that I even know that, with as much as I profess to care very little about alternate uniforms. But this one, like, it kind of has my attention a little bit, like you said, because I think it resonates with recruits, so it matters in the big environment of Nebraska football, and I'm as excited for it as I can be.
Yeah.
About alternate uniforms.
I wish I had more of an opinion on it. I don't. I'll try and gin one up throughout the day, and we'll see how the weekend goes. So let's get to our mailbag question. So speaking of controversial topics, uniforms, and things that happened around the game. Scott in Windsor, Ontario, starts us off today. Since no one seems to be talking about the game this week or taking it seriously, I would just like to ask an off-topic question. Am I off base to think that the tunnel walk is, overhyped? I mean, it's just players walking through a tunnel, some slapping a framed horseshoe. Don't all teams have to walk through some sort of a hallway or a corridor to reach the field? And the music? Seriously? That's Scott in Windsor, Ontario, for the record.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Scott.
Wow. You guys are haters. Let me say this. I think that the tunnel walk is a good Nebraska tradition. I do not think it is one of college football's best traditions. So I think, Nebraska's standout tradition in the lexicon of college football is the black shirts, right? It's or the sea of red in its entirety. It is not
or the sellout streak.
Yeah, or the sellout streak. The tunnel walk is not one of its defining qualities. It's not one of its defining things. Although I think Scott makes a fair point that every team has to walk out of their locker room to the field, and it's very likely going to be to music, and they're going to be slapping something or something like that. So yeah, I guess I agree. Although I don't know that I would put it that way, I suppose.
My main thing is that it could just be so much better. And I think they've made some progress in the last year in shortening it up a bit, because there was a point when they moved over to the new building with the locker room that's farther away from the field where the tunnel walk became comically long, and it was almost like they had to put the music on repeat, like, let's restart the song, because they're still here. They go. They're still coming down. Where are they walking from? Like Abel Hall? But
seriously.
Now,
it's a far walk. Now, it used to be a really far walk, and now it's a short one.
Yeah, or the opposite. But
no. when they were in the North Stadium, I mean, it was their locker room is tucked back there. They go through a long hallway. They slap the horseshoe. They come out the door. Then they take a right. Then they go out that northwest corner. And now they're coming out of the new facility, which is just connected to that northeast corner, and they go straight out the tunnel that way. When they used to be in the South Stadium, it was a medium to short length walk.
It was designed, and the music, it didn't get to a place where you were wishing the song would just stop because it was getting annoying. And also the song was somewhat current in the 1990s, and it's not in 2025, but I just think it could be so much better. And look at what Nebraska does with the light show and some of the things that they've added to the game production and some of the stuff that Nebraska does. Like, go to the Bob Devaney Sports Center tonight and watch what Nebraska does for its volleyball intro. It's 1,000 times better than the football one, and that just shouldn't be the case at Nebraska. Even basketball does things, the intro, that outperform the tunnel walk. But the thing is, like, are you still here, Connor?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good. I thought you just ditched out on me because I'm railing on the tunnel walk.
Bad takes about the tunnel walk, yeah.
But the thing is, like, that I've come to recognize is that people like the comfort of what they know. And if you've been coming to the stadium for decades now, and this is what you know, then there is a segment of the population, a significant segment of the Nebraska football population that's going to say, no, I love the tunnel walk. It's a part of the football experience. I want them to keep it exactly the same. So
they've gone away with a variety of other traditions over the years. I wouldn't be surprised if Rhule changed it up at some point. But yeah, we'll see.
I mean, my gosh, they stand on the other side of the field now during the game. They've painted the end zones red and the sidelines black.
Traditions be damned.
I don't know how some people, I don't know how they can manage that when they come into the stadium. Like, they might pass out from shock.
Here is Ryan in Bettendorf, Iowa, originally from Central City. Hello, Ryan. Longtime listener, first-time messenger. With Nyziah Hunter being a sophomore, is he gone next year or the year after to the NFL? He's been a pleasant surprise, coupled with the addition of Key. What we expected from last year at the wide receiver position from the transfers.
Yeah, he's saying this is what we expected. Sure, it's a possibility. He's only played a couple of games. He's a talented receiver for sure. You can see the connection between Nyziah Hunter and Dylan Raiola, and Nebraska apparently, it appears to have definitely hit the mark with both Hunter and Key. And that's great to be able to do that on two receivers. In the past, Nebraska's done that with one receiver in a calendar year when you look at Trey Palmer, Samari Toure. So yeah, it's possible. He's a third-year sophomore. I don't know what things are going to look like at the end of the season, but I do know this, that if there's an opportunity for him to go, his biggest advocate to do it is going to be Matt Rhule. And in the past, and I think with what you find at other programs, sometimes the head coach will say, I want the players to do what's best for them. But the reality is they want the players to come back and play in their program. And Matt Rhule is not going to be that way. I mean, yes, he wants the best for Nebraska, but he genuinely will help players get to the next level, even if it means that Nebraska has to go out and replace a different spot.
Yeah, it's a good point, because I had kind of forgotten that he was a third-year sophomore, so he is draft eligible after this year. I kind of thought in my head, for whatever reason, that he was a true sophomore. I don't think he's, we'll see how this year goes. Like, maybe he really blows up, but at this point, I think he's a really good candidate to be here for certainly another year, and potentially two, sure, and anchor this receiver core starting next season.
Yeah. All right, we go to Tim in Greenville, South Carolina. Why did you guys change your takes on the special teams from the offseason? Yeah, Connor didn't change his take. In numerous episodes of the podcast, you simply asked for an average special teams season. The theory you espoused, and I agreed with, was that average play, not making stupid decisions, missing easy field goals, flubbing holds. Without that, Nebraska would have possibly won 2 to 3 more games. On Thursday's episode, I heard, quote, we haven't seen anything yet from the special teams, and, quote, I expect net positive from them, not just average. Why the change? Are you just raising expectations?
No. What? Well, I don't know. This is very
that's
confusing.
me. Probably
So
me.
I think what I was talking about was what I've seen so far, right? Like I think they have been exactly what I have expected them to be, which is good. Which is maybe a little even better than net neutral. That maybe they've even been better than I've expected them to be so far. So yeah, I guess
I think Tim's getting after me on this one because I'm the one who said that net positive, and I did. I was on board with you, and I think most people in the offseason where I said, just make them average, just don't screw up games. And maybe I'm getting a little greedy after watching them in a couple of games. Maybe
why not?
I'm buying into the excitement of having more punt return yardage in one game than they had in 4 consecutive seasons. Actually, I think it might have been 5 consecutive seasons. If you go back and look at the 2020 season, which was a shortened season. So maybe that's not why that was as publicized as much. Whatever the case, the point remains, it was a change. And I'm right. If like I have higher expectations, I suppose, for Dylan Raiola right now through 2 games than I did at the start of the year.
Yeah.
Because of the way that he's performed in 2 games. And, heard Matt Rhule on the Pat McAfee show on Thursday, like really getting into the whole concept that Dylan is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And he talked about him doing all of the NFL stuff and making throws from under center and from the shotgun, and like how much leeway they're giving him. Like as a result of those comments and some of the things that I've seen, like my expectations have gone up. And you could say the same thing probably to a lesser degree about the special teams.
Yeah, I think it's okay to raise the bar after you've seen it for a couple games, and maybe it's already cleared some people's bars. It's a great comp on Raiola because I mean he's looked pretty crisp here, so the expectations are going to start taking off for him. All right, let's take a break. We have plenty more questions from you all on a Friday mailbag when we come back.
Now a message from Mazda. This is Mazda's Moving the Game Forward, brought to you by those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it, because these moments do more than win. They push what's possible. They remind us to go that extra yard, shift into the extra gear, and keep the game moving forward. If you're thinking about something that happened in Nebraska's second game of the year last week, maybe it's the throw that Dylan Raiola made to Dane Key in the corner of the end zone. Think about the performance, the breakout performance of Mazda, and how going for it no matter what, even in a moment after the game, if you've got a positive outlook, what's going to keep you moving forward? What's going to keep Nebraska moving forward? Mazda believes the same thing. This is why fans and players alike keep moving forward, always chasing the next great moment. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved.
Welcome back. Friday here on the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Let's go further into your mailbag questions before Nebraska gets Houston Christian tomorrow, trying to stay undefeated against FCS teams or 1AA teams all time. Here's TJ. Gentlemen, huge fan of the show. I have a fun / hypothetical question I meant to send you all a couple weeks ago before the start of the season, but didn't get around to it. If before the season started, you had the opportunity to look into a crystal ball and see the season's win-loss total, but not the specific results of each game, would you take advantage of that opportunity? Oh, this is an easy answer for me. Hell no. Okay. Absolutely not. God, no. Come on. That's the fun of it.
Takes the suspense out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where I was leaning. I wasn't I don't think I'd want. Why would you want to know? Like, they're going to go 8-4. Oh, yeah. All right. Well, that kind of ruined everything.
So, I want to ride the roller coaster along with everybody else. Yeah. Let's, whether it's good or bad, that's the fun of it.
For sure.
Here is Cornholio. Are you threatening me? Gentlemen, do you know the proper etiquette as far as which college football team, home team or visiting team, is supposed to enter the field first and last before the game? Well, the visiting team is supposed to enter first, and then the home team enters the field second. In the Iowa State game, I saw the Iowa coach standing in front of his team waiting for 5 minutes. The TV kept showing them, and he kept them there for 5 minutes. They were the visiting team and at Iowa State. And finally, when Iowa State started their tunnel music and started entering the field, that smug jerk from Iowa led his team onto the field at the same time as Iowa State. We're supposed to think Kirk Ferentz is a great guy. He looked like a smug jerk to me. Glad they lost by a field goal in the fourth quarter. What a question, Cornholio.
Yeah, you answered your own question about the visiting team going first. Look, Kirk Ferentz is all about the mind games. Like, he might not want to come out and freely talk about that, but you remember the situation last year where the Iowa State troopers were guarding the midfield logo so that Nebraska had to go somewhere else to do the little pregame prayer. And man, did it get into the Huskers' heads. Yeah. And you better believe that that's what Iowa was hoping would happen. And it got so much into the Huskers' heads, along with some other tactics that Iowa has employed through the years, that Nebraska wouldn't shake hands with the Iowa captains at the beginning of that game. And I thought that was fine. Like, I was trying to get in their heads. Fine. They can have a little retribution if they want.
This is classic macho football guy stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So that's all he's doing. And whatever, like, maybe it smacks of like 20 years ago tactics, but that's Kirk Ferentz. Like, he's going to do what worked for him in 2003 until the day that he steps down as the coach of that program.
I will say this: you shouldn't allow it to bother you as the other side. If you're a fan watching, I think that's okay, you know, to have that take from Mr. Cornholio.
In retrospect, with Nebraska, the Huskers should not have let the situation at Iowa bother them before the game. And maybe they have a little more composure and it becomes a different outcome. I'm not suggesting that Nebraska lost the game because it refused to shake hands with Iowa. And I came out and said that that was fine at the time. Wrote a column that resonated negatively with a lot of Iowa people, but that's also fine. This is part of what he's going to do, what Ferentz is going to want to do. And there are other coaches out there who act similarly.
Here is a volleyball question from the mailbag. Kevin in Chicago. Are Nebraska and Texas on a collision course to meet for the national championship in volleyball?
Gosh, it kind of looks like that, Kevin. Texas is off to a hot start and has been knocking down top 5 teams, just like Nebraska. I believe the Longhorns are now up to number 2 in the poll behind the number 1 ranked Huskers. Texas beat Louisville, which is in Omaha tonight, and also Stanford in 5-set matches here in the last week. So Texas has got big time transfer. Tori Stafford from Pitt has the big time freshman in Carrie Spears, the daughter of Marcus Spears of ESPN TV fame. Wow. So they're probably the one program out there that can like match Nebraska with its, or come close to matching Nebraska with its star power and like recognizability across the sports. But the Huskers are a juggernaut. They're 6-0 and will play Utah tonight, 22nd ranked Utah at the Devaney Center. And then Nebraska also plays against Grand Canyon on Saturday evening after the football game. Big one on tap Tuesday in Omaha. Nebraska visits Creighton, and that is at CHI, not the normal venue for Creighton volleyball. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, many people are going to flood this podcast afterwards, I'm sure, when they. Well, let's just say you'll see me on Tuesday. And if you're
be a part of the production,
yeah, yeah. So we look forward.
That's awesome. Can't wait to see it
afterwards. Yes. Here is Justin regarding the halftime speech from Matt Rhule at the Akron game. How do you think Nebraska would have responded to this level of pep talk anytime in the last 15 years? I think the fact that Rhule can do that in year 3 shows that he has been able to build and develop the team to a level that it won't scare guys away. Quote, we should expect to shut these guys out, end quote, wasn't a thought that the Husker team has been able to strive for since when? Since Pelini, he asks.
Yeah, I'm on board with the fact that Matt Rhule in year 3 can do things with the team that he couldn't do in year 1 or
Totally.
even year 2. That wouldn't have resonated in the same way had he done that 2 years ago.
He's got his finger on the pulse, better than just about any coach that we've seen. That's a big part of the job. It's not the whole job. It's a huge part of it though. So you have to understand, you can only shoot that shot a couple times a year, at most. And he knows that. You can only, you have to understand what the current mood and environment inside your locker room is, who your leaders are, and how they're going to rally around that sort of idea as well. So I think he has a great finger on the pulse. I don't know that speech like scares away anybody in the past. Nebraska's had a lot of players over the last decade since they've been losing that are up to the challenge and all of those things. So I don't know that I'd put it that way, but I would just say that Rhule has a really good idea of what to say to his team at whatever given time.
Yeah, there are plenty of players from other teams who wanted to be coached hard and would respond well to that. I just don't know as a team if Nebraska was up for that kind of a motivational tactic as well as it is right now. From Vince in Napa, he says a good example of Connor's Matt Rhule has raised the floor analogy is that Nebraska's 5-0 under Rhule against non-Power 5 foes. Granted, not all of them were 68-0 wins, but the Huskers were never in danger of losing to those opponents, which is more than you can say for the Scott Frost and Mike Riley eras. Bo Pelini to a lesser degree, although the McNeese State game in 2014 and the uninspired 2010 win over South Dakota State come to mind. Question, totally separate from that. In what area or areas did Nebraska make its biggest leap from week 1 to week 2?
Okay, so we're not commenting on the fact that they've beat Group of 5 teams. Okay,
no, that was Vince's. That was just his addition to the commentary on the show.
I love it. Nebraska, as we mentioned before, undefeated against FCS teams. Shout out to Amir Abdullah for the 2014 McNeese State game. Where did they make their biggest jump week 1 to week 2? I mean, it's hard to tell because it's so opponent dependent. I thought Emmett Johnson got a little bit more patient, from week 1 to week 2. Obviously, once again, super opponent dependent. I think that Akron team, especially that defense, I mean, both sides really, that Akron team that Nebraska saw is one of the worst football teams in America. So, I mean, it's just so difficult to tell. There's a chance that the team that they play this week is a little bit better, even though they're at a lower level. They're just a little bit more put together, right? Mm-hmm. They kind of know where they're supposed to be and stuff like that. So I don't know. Where did they make their biggest job? Maybe in the run game. I think those backup running backs did a good job too.
I'll just say offensive explosives. Okay, one more before we go to break from Cam in Ann Arbor. Ann Arbor, they're going to be on the minds of Nebraska fans very soon. This one came in late last week on Thursday, so Cam asked this question ahead of the Akron game, and he's referring back to Brady, our guest last Thursday. He says, first, I appreciate Brady's take on the season. Between that and his grade A networking skills, sorry, Damon, maybe next time, bud. The kid is going places. Speaking of, we got lots of comments, by the way.
So much feedback on Brady.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Brady is beloved. We're gonna have to have him back on later in the year. Speaking of Brady's take, where do Nebraska fans who had the week 4 matchup chalked up as a W stand after both performances in week 1 from the Huskers and Wolverines? Of course, we now have 2 weeks of sample size. Against limited competition, what would Nebraska fans have to see in the next couple of games versus Teddy Bear Tech, that's nice, Akron, and Snickerdoodle State, that's Houston Christian, to be able to feel confident in the Michigan, heading into the Michigan game? Excellent content as always, and appreciate everything you do. GBR. Thank you, Cam.
Well, I think you're seeing it, Cam. I mean, this is a question from the past, but 68-0 and a pretty thorough beat down, and running for all the yards you want, passing for all the yards you want, and pitching a shutout is a really good start. I think that really did improve the mood around here. I know it was against, as he said, Teddy Bear Tech, but it improved the mood around here for sure. And my general sense on it, and now after seeing Michigan lose to Oklahoma the way they did, is that people are going to be pretty confident going into that game. I mean, Michigan plays Central Michigan this week, and Nebraska has Snickerdoodle State. So, yeah.
We did not come up with those names.
That's what
to
it
be
said.
clear. Yeah, that was Cam. Good job, Cam. Look, Michigan's performance, I think, probably has more to do with how Michigan's performance in week 2 probably has more to do with rising levels of confidence among Nebraska fans about what week 4 is going to look like. I believe if you polled Nebraska fans right now before these two Big Ten teams play their final non-conference games, you would get a feeling that Nebraska is in position to win that game next week. Like, I think people in general would put Nebraska as like a 1 to 2 point favorite in that game. I don't know that that's what the odds makers are going to say come Sunday. I would maybe expect, and again, it's probably going to be slightly influenced by what happens on Saturday. I going into it right now, I would expect that Michigan's going to be a point or two favorite. I could see that line flipping though as the week moves on and we get closer to Saturday, September 20th kickoff. I believe Michigan was a 2.5 point favorite in the preseason lines that were out there.
So. Yeah, and now it's come down a little bit. So yeah, we'll see what happens this week. It's going to end up being close to a pick'em. Would be my guess.
Mm-hmm. Take a break. Let's do that. We'll come back. A couple more questions on this Friday mailbag, and then we send you off into the weekend. Coming back in a minute.
But first, let's tell you a little bit about Drip Drop. Did you see that Nebraska sent out the word yesterday that you are allowed to take some precaution inside the stadium? It's going to be a hot weekend. So stay on top of it. Why not bring a little package, a little pouch of the Drip Drop in?
You can put it into your water bottle that you bring into the stadium before you ever come in.
Exactly. Drip Drop is a doctor-developed and scientifically proven usage of fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium, electrolytes, and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of the leading sports drink. Sounds perfect for Saturday. So why not bring a couple to the game out on the golf course? Keep them with you at all times, and you're always going to stay hydrated. Right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off of your first order. Head to dripdrop.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. Stock up now before it hits you hard. And one more from our friends from DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. You can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. This guy delivered when it mattered most. We'll get it back to, of course, Ja'Cory Barney, who had an excellent weekend this past weekend, leading Nebraska in receiving. He came through, no hesitation, no delay. And you've been watching Ja'Cory Barney now week after week after week, so you know that performance was not a fluke. Just like Ja'Cory Barney delivered for Nebraska, DoorDash is going to deliver on your Saturdays. And with DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday that you order. So keep the streak going this Saturday, stack it up all season long, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day with DoorDash. Terms apply, promo period through November 18th.
All right, here we go. Final segment. Locked On Nebraska podcast, Friday mailbag episode. Mitch Sherman, Connor Happer with you. We go to Brandon in Plainview, Nebraska, which I don't know if Plainview needs a pin. Probably does. Here is our map from Nathan. Looking good there on the lower 48. I know we have some worldwide pins too. We can go to the world map. There we are, the world map. So that's fantastic stuff. Thank you, Nathan, as always, for your additions to this show. He says, Nathan tells us that
this is the northern hemisphere, by the way. We need to. Do we have any pins in Australia? because they're cut off.
We should. I mean, Archie inspired pins should be a thing. I don't know if there's anybody who's listening to this podcast in Australia and is a big fan of Nebraska's punter or just Nebraska football in general. Like, send us a mailbag question so we can expand this map. You're right. Like, South America just cut off there. Like, anything that's good. There's anything that's going on in Australia or New Zealand or South Africa is just not being represented here on this map. But Nathan does a great job. He's going to have updates for us after the bye week, I think is what he said, ahead of Michigan State. So we can expect that in a couple of weeks. Okay. Back to Brandon. He says it still feels like there's a lot of people hung up about the Cincinnati game, even after that performance against Akron. Do you guys think that how Nebraska fans feel about the Cincy game is similar to how Ohio State fans felt after the Buckeyes played Nebraska last year? I think there's a lot of reason to be optimistic going into conference season, and I was curious how you guys feel. Thank you and love the show.
Probably. I mean, Nebraska fans, feel like they should have won that game. Even in the game, even for how the game played out, they should have won it maybe a little bit more comfortably. I mean, they had a chance to really stomp them out and didn't take that opportunity early in the third quarter of that game. I don't know, Brandon, if from my perspective, and talk to Husker fans like every day on the radio show or this podcast, like I don't feel like people are hung up from the Cincinnati game. It doesn't feel like that to me. I kind of feel like the Akron shellacking, as I'm calling it, kind of wiped that out a little bit. Maybe it shouldn't have, but there is going to always be some question. There was always going to be some question all the way through or until you played the Michigan game, because that's when you really find out about yourself. So there's a lot of eggs in that basket, and I do think people will be pretty optimistic going into it.
Nebraska fans, with as much as they've been beaten down over the years by ugly performances and heartbreaking losses, do not carry even more than a small fraction of the entitlement that Ohio State fans feel about the way things go when the Buckeyes win a close game. Nebraska fans were, sure, breathing a sigh of relief after the game in Kansas City, but I sense also just generally overjoyed that Nebraska was coming back home to open the season 1-0 instead of 0-1 against one of these Power 4 openers that has become the norm in the last decade. So there's two different questions here. Did Nebraska fans, did they have a lot in common with Ohio State fans? No. Were their feelings about the season impacted by the way the Cincinnati game went before Nebraska played Akron, and still today in some cases? Yeah, I think that's the case. I think there's still a lot of Nebraska fans out there who are wondering, like, what's the real team? And when Nebraska gets to Michigan and Michigan State here in a couple weeks, is it going to look more like the team that faced Akron that was kind of sloppy and not taking advantage of opportunities, or have they turned a corner and was that 60 minutes of strong football something that we can expect from them in the Big Ten?
Yeah, I think that's well said. Here is Dave. Final question on the mailbag. Hey guys, love the show. Need your advice. My wife is away on a long work trip, so I'm jumping on the opportunity to come back to Elkhorn and hang with my 82-year-old mom for nearly 2 weeks starting today. My great buddy kindly offered me a ticket to the Michigan game next Saturday. Should I go, or should I instead go visit my brother and his 7 kids in Denver that weekend? Thanks for your thoughts.
There's a lot going on here with Dave. First of all, what are you going to have to do in the house with your brother if you go visit him and his 7 kids? Like, do you then become Uncle Dave, who's got to take them places and entertain the kids? And are you going to be trying to watch the game on that Saturday and you're going to be distracted and annoyed? Like, can you get to a quiet place where you can watch college football on Saturday in Denver? How much does that matter to you?
How often do you see Dave? How often do you see your mom? Like things like this. So these are just questions.
Brother, how often do you see your brother? Yeah.
These are just questions that we really can't answer. But I would generally say that going to the biggest home game of the year feels like a better idea than hanging out with 7 children in Denver.
Yeah, I mean, you're coming home to see your mom home, Elkhorn, which is presumably where you're from, Dave. Like, take advantage of the opportunity to be in your home state during this time, during this week of the Michigan game, and go to the Michigan game. And I'd say go visit your brother and your nieces and nephews in Denver like a different time.
By week.
Yeah, do it right. Do it after the game. Maybe you need to get back home then because your wife's going to be gone from her ridiculously long work. Where's she going? gives you 2 weeks, 2 weeks to leave home. I don't know about that, but yeah, spend some time with your mom. Go to the Michigan game, see your wife, and figure out another time to see your brother in Denver.
Yep, that's kind of where I stand as well. All right, appreciate you all on the mailbag. We look forward to we'll do a reaction episode on maybe Saturday, potentially Sunday. So stay tuned for that. And then a full week of episodes next week going into Michigan week. Big week. Hell yes. It's another big moment for Locked On college football fans. Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekend preview. Drake Toll, Gary Patterson, Jesse Holly, Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff each Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV.